If you have a basic understanding of human anatomy, you will know that humans cannot breathe underwater. In fact, you probably already know this because you've seen the first video. If you haven't though, I'll summarize this. Essentially, our entire world is now flooded with water, but we can also breathe underwater. And somehow we're gonna beat the entire game like this. So let's dip our toes in. I made that joke in the last video. Okay, whatever, let's just start the video. So we have finally entered hard mode. With a myriad of new options open to us, the first thing we did was go to the Sunken Sea. A place where you can obtain some incredible weaponry by literally killing a couple enemies. Take this eutrophic scimitar that we got not 5 seconds ago. It is a great weapon and all, but I felt like pivoting to ranged. While in early hard mode, ranged definitely isn't the best option. After you kill a mech boss or two is when it really comes into its own. I found the Astral Infection, crafted a bullet-filled shotgun, moved the arms dealer in, and we bought the P90. Not particularly the greatest option, but man if this thing isn't fun to use. Pretty much any insanely fast weapon is just amazing. Anyways, the reason we're in the Sunken Sea is to fight the upgraded giant clam. With the defeat of the Wall of Flesh, it now has more health and some new attacks, but drops much better loot. This is gonna take a while. The giant clam now drops mollusk husks, which can be crafted into new rogue weapons and a possible new set of armor. Plus a very serviceable range weapon that drops directly from him, although we didn't get it this time. First off, I crafted the mollusk armor, which I do remember granting some underwater mobility. However, the horizontal speed decrease is just too much. I have combined the chest plate and leggings with other helmets before, but to be honest, that's only really viable on no hits. So I switched back to the Statagel armor. After quickly mining some cobalt and palladium, I make the Deep Diver, a ram dashing accessory which grants increased underwater mobility. Literally the perfect accessory for this run. Then I buy the fin wings from the merchant. I'm not sure what mod adds those to the merchant's shop, but these can also be obtained by doing fishing quests in hard mode. And once again, these also increase our water mobility. Okay, last upgrade I'm gonna make, I promise. If you watch my stealth only series, you'll know that the Wave Skipper's stealth strike is incredibly overpowered. So I thought we'd test out the spam attack and see how well that holds up. Turns out, it's just as good. This thing was dealing multiple thousands of DPS. It wasn't exactly on the same power level as a stealth strike, but it was very close. And by no means was I using a DPS build. To be honest, I might just stick to rogue at this point. Not before I stick my face into one of these evil looking cloud things. But we move though, that was just a mistake, we can kill this guy. He is the aquatic scourge, but I'm pretty much the king of the sea at this point. And we take him down with only a slight challenge. Netting ourselves the Baronautical, not what I was hoping for. But more importantly, the aquatic emblem. An underwater based accessory which grants 50 defense. At the cost of, drumroll please, 10% movement speed. So we essentially get a 350 defense, which is more than the Draiden's Heart, might I add. At this point, man, I was really feeling like playing ranged, but I just didn't have any good weapons at this point. We needed to kill a mech boss. The Baronautical just doesn't hold up. I gave the giant clam a couple more attempts to see if we could get the clamor rifle. The clam went down without any trouble obviously, and there we go. I tried the Scourge again for the sea searing, but I'm not doing this fight another 20 times. Well, it was time for the obligatory early hard mode Soul of Night and Soul of Light grind. I head to my local underground Crimson and pop a Zerg, but we were only getting jellyfish. I'm not complaining, they still drop souls, but this was a sight to behold. There is so many of them, what is actually— Oh yeah, by the way, we'll still be able to get lots of Ichor, as the Perforators actually drop Ichor in hard mode. Okay, moving on to the Hallow, except Queen Slime actually drops Souls of Light, so we'll just fight her instead. As with every other slime boss underwater, she moves so comically slowly, it's incredible. Is this what playing journey mode's like? Okay, she's in her second phase and now she's starting to take off, and she can fly so fast, yet falls at like 2 miles per hour. So it's needless to say that this was basically a free win. Now on to more important things. All balls, no brain, we are fighting a destroyer. You saw how quickly the Wave Skipper turned the Aquatic Scourge into a pot noodle, so we were going to do the same thing for the Destroyer, which would grant us access to tier 2 hard mode ores and Souls of Might. Hopefully the Mega Shark is a good enough weapon to warrant us switching to ranged. Anyway, status update on the Destroyer fight, the lasers were pretty heavily slowed down, which made them somewhat easier to dodge. We were actually pretty agile now considering all the water mobility buffs we had, plus the infinite flight from the flipper effect. We were rapidly approaching the Destroyer's second phase though, which is when things could take a turn for the worst. Although, so far I had a hopeful outlook on this fight. We was on full HP and the Destroyer was getting closer and closer to turning into scrap. He'd give his absolute best effort to eat us, but we was just too cracked. Our game freezes for a second and we take him down. It is time to use these Souls of Might. But first of all though, I mined some Mithril and craft the Mithril Ranger set. I then upgrade my Brain of Confusion into the Amalgamated Brain, as I forgot to do that earlier. Then I take a couple serviceable ranged weapons until we can get the Mega Shark. Now we actually get a chance to try the Clamor Rifle we got earlier, and it's not half bad of a weapon, especially being homing and all. Also, I bought the Spiteful Candle and Rod of Discord from the Wizard. After totally not purchasing some shark fins from a modded NPC, we craft the Mega Shark. A very solid weapon in Vanilla and Calamity alike. This weapon has never not been viable since it was added. Anyways, did you hear someone say boss rushed? Because I sure did. It was time to forcefully feed the twins some lead. To be more specific, I call bullets. Anyways, like with the majority of the boss fights we've done so far, the water has made them considerably easier. I sure do hope this challenge gets harder later on. As always, Spasmatism gets to his second phase before Retinator, but before long we turn both of them. Now this is where the fun stuff begins. I don't think these lasers are lasering. Spasmatism was fairly easily dodged by alternating between falling and jumping. He'd get a couple cheeky hits in if we had a bad cycle, but for the most part we was doing great. Now for his final phase where he tries to grab you from underneath. Luckily this was very easily dodged by doing the same strategy as before. Moving on to Retinator, the absolute barrage of lasers he fires are heavily slowed down, but the homing ones do maintain most of their speed. This repeated for another few cycles as we gunned him down with the Mega Shark, and before too long, he was defeated. Souls of Sight obtained. Now we could go and mine the tier 3 hard mode ores, but I honestly think we're ready for Skelly Prime. What I was hoping for here is that his skulls and lasers would be slowed down due to the water, making him significantly easier. Let's just say I think I was right. I was genuinely hoping for a challenge, but this is easy. I'll admit the Mega Shark did take quite a while getting rid of his arms, but we're here now and that's what matters. Okay, here comes the homing skulls. Let's see. They are so much slower, wow. You see, this is what they should actually be like. Because like this, and also in Revengeance, they're actually possible to dodge simultaneously with the lasers, without just cheesing the boss. Yeah, I really hope they rework this guy in the next update. Anyways, the fight is going smooth as ever. He's now moved on to shooting his homing rockets, but once again they get slowed down in the water. Although the one issue with that is that there's now a giant wall of them chasing me. And this was quickly turning into a very close fight, considering we had a whole 45 seconds left on a hill. We can't let him take us out now though, we just gotta run for our lives. And believe it or not, we'd taken out all 3 mechanical bosses pretty much back to back. If I'm being honest, I was kind of flabbergasted at this point. If my mic sounds any different, hopefully it sounds better, I changed some settings. Anyways, we needed to fight Cryogen. For that, we needed to gather some Essence of Helium, but wait, hold on, you're going too fast. Why are we fighting Cryogen? Well, Cryogen spawns Cryonic Ore in the underground snow biome, and we were going to need to mine Cryonic Ore at some point. While the upgrades you can get from it at this point of the game probably won't be that useful to us, we can make life alloys later on. Anyways, Cryogen, one of my favourite bosses in the entire mod. Just like Skeletron Prime, all of his projectiles are slowed down, making it kind of funny, and also making his attacks very easy to dodge. We got him to his final phase with absolutely no issue. The Mega Shark was kind of hard to aim at times, but it was nothing too serious. Before long, we pop Cryogen, out comes the Archmage, and the ice caves are now crackling with frigid energy, which means mining time. I forgot to bring a Spelunker potion, but luckily Cryonic Ore has a natural glow to it, so we could spot it pretty easily. I had a look at the recipes, but there really wasn't anything we could make right now. The Ornate Shield possibly, but the Deep Diver does the exact same thing. With the hallowed bars we got from killing all 3 mechs, I made the Pickaxe Axe, mined up some Chlorophyte in the jungle, held my breath and got some Essences of Chaos, crafted the Eye of Desolation and summoned in the Cow. I'll be honest, for Ranger at least, there really wasn't much preparation we could actually do. The Mega Shark was a more than viable weapon on Cow herself, and for the brothers I used the Chlorophyte Shotbow with Cinder Arrows. Okay, time for the first bullet hell. The projectiles, as far as I can see, don't actually get slowed down by water, but the infinite flight makes them a breeze to dodge. Although there is a slight lack of precision when dodging, especially with the flipper effect, the scarcity of the projectiles lets us get through perfectly fine. As always, the second phase is easy, but here comes the brothers. This is where our lack of agility might come back to bite us, but the Chlorophyte shortbow was doing amazing. Well, wouldn't say amazing, but it's the best we've got right now. We were getting hurt pretty badly though. But don't worry, we're good at the game, so we pass on to the next phase. Cal now spawns in a bunch of Soul Seekers who circle her, and starts shooting even more projectiles, especially when she dashes. But my Chlorophyte shortbow says nah, and we move on to the final bullet hell. This time with the circular brimstone projectiles. They can catch you very off guard if you're close to them, but as long as you stay a safe distance away, you'll be fine. Except if you take stupid hits like I did. Now for her final and by far easiest phase, you literally move in a straight line and dash. Hooray, we did it. We open up our treasure bag, but the treasure bag wasn't what I was after. The Havoc's breath is a flamethrower that drops from the brothers, and would you look at that, we already got it. Must have dropped from our first attempt then, because I had no idea it was there. That's cool and all, but there was another ranged weapon we can get from the treasure bag, the Animosity. We didn't get it. No worries, we'll just try again. Why am I reforging my Havoc's breath in the middle? What am I doing? Well, next time's the charm and oh my goodness. Alright, it just wasn't our day today. I thought that maybe this session we could try something new and go for Plantera. I found the Vernal Pass, aka the free Plantera arena. There's no bulbs. Of all the ways you could just make my life harder, well, I guess we've got to craft a porter bulb now. I got forced home by an anglerfish so I could craft it. Turns out, I'm missing some trapper bulbs. Not to worry, I'll just go and farm some now. They don't spawn underwater. I was at the point of the night where I'm too lazy to build a teleporter setup or any arenas for that matter, but there's just enough dopamine floating around that makes me want to find the next boss. I found a pool of water with a pretty huge air pocket nearby, so I stuck around to see if I could find any angry trappers. Trapper bulb obtained. Now with the porter bulb in my hands, I rushed back to the arena and summoned in Plantera. To no surprise really, the plant herself wasn't actually affected by the water, but the floatiness made it slightly easier to dodge her attacks. Looking back on this now, I should have got rid of that massive blocks in the middle. I just never do it out of pure laziness, you know I never build arenas. But either way, when I was able to do damage, our Havoc's breath was putting in some numbers. I could tell already this was going to be a test of our endurance. Funnily enough though, her spiky balls are slowed down by the water, which is probably one of the most useful things that could have happened. Of course I still find a way to get hit by them. Okay, time for the second phase now, and this is where Plantera means business. The tentacles were completely trivialized by the Havoc's breath, but the walls of seeds she fires out would prove to be nearly impossible to dodge. And with an unfortunate timed dash, she took me out. Back to punching a hole in the drawing board and throwing it across the room. This is when I finally caved and got rid of all the blocks in the middle. See? It looks so much nicer now. Anyways, I summoned Plantera back in. There is some air pockets, but I'm sure they'll be filled in with some water soon enough. Let's just focus on the fight for now, shall we? I'm sure the water... What? The game froze for a couple minutes after this, giving me some time to reflect on my life decisions and why I'm even here. I think I need more than a couple minutes to process this. I save and exit the world and pinch myself, hoping that this is just a bad dream that I can wake up from. My water. All of my water. What does one even do in this situation? Wait, the jungle temple is looking kinda full. Would be a real shame if I just happened to hike into it. Me breaking the laws of physics and reality to kill a boss slightly earlier than you're intended to. Except nah, of course we're not fighting Golem yet. I just wanted a good arena for Plantera. Wouldn't say by any means good, but it's half decent. The sheer lack of volume this arena had made it somewhat easy to take stupid hits, but we got to the second phase. The boss's health went down and my heart rate went up. Even with our lack of agility, Plantera's dashes were still fairly easy to dodge, although the lack of size this arena had made it somewhat hard kiting around her. But we was on pretty much full health, we was gonna take her down. I had basically no ammo for the Havoc's breath anymore, and I really didn't want to farm any gel, so I just used the Mega Shock. It didn't deal nearly as much damage, but allowed me to get much further away from the boss. Okay, I'm a fraud, why am I actually dying to death mode Plantera? Anyways, I remembered we could make the angel tread, so I farmed the materials we needed. And yeah, looks like there's a severe lack of water in our world now. I guess I'll have to reflood it at some point. But we need to take care of Plantera first, of course. I forgot to mention I crafted the Chlorophyte armor as well, giving us significantly more defense compared to the Mithril armor, and the set bonus heavily increasing our survivability. As slow as this fight was, no, I'm not even kidding, it took like 2 minutes to get to the second phase, we were doing pretty alright for ourselves. I did decide in the end I'd use the Havoc's breath to finish her off, as there's no way I could fail this attempt. I activate Adrenaline one last time and completely melt her, finally netting us our victory against Plantera. I opened the treasure bag, granting us living shards, but there was still the problem at hand. I used a command which, upon activation, froze my game for a couple minutes. Soon after though, our world was back to being fully flooded again. Well, now that we're back in business, I thought we'd go and take a trip to the hard mode dungeon, as we were going to be needing plenty of ectoplasm for all the new recipes we could make. Due to the dungeon being entirely flooded, there were a lot of jellyfish floating about, but eventually we found the skeletons we needed. And we picked up a tactical shotgun. Okay, so the first thing on our agenda was to take on the Frost Moon. The reason being that we could obtain two brand new weapons that would basically carry us all the way up to Golem. The Snowman Cannon and the Eternal Blizzard. The Snowman Cannon being a direct drop from the Ice Queen, which we are barely taking out ever screams of this shotgun. Plus the fact that the Snowman Cannon isn't even guaranteed. But worry not, we have a safety net here. The Eternal Blizzard can be bought from the Archmage after taking out each Frost Moon mini-boss once. So we just had to get at least one kill, which we barely managed to pull off with 30 seconds to spare. Okay, it is time to test this thing. I bought some icicle bullets and hailstorm arrows, but yeah, the water really doesn't like them. I decided Plantera would be the perfect target dummy for this weapon. After all, we were going to need some more living shards, and we could have a chance at getting the Blossom Flux. With the icicle arrows, this weapon was dealing a solid 1300 DPS, however we had to stay pretty close, which is especially scary in the second phase. But the practice I've had with my Infernum playthrough was actually paying off here. We took her down fairly easily, and we didn't get the Blossom Flux. No worries, we'll just fight her again. With one solid blow to the face, and my ego, I run back home crying to the Goblin Tinkerer and summoning the Frost Moon once again. This time with the living shards I got from Plantera, I crafted some sprouting arrows, which split into 2 arrows at a certain distance, however dealing slightly less damage to compensate. With our considerably better loadout, we was able to breeze through the waves much faster than before, taking out our first Ice Queen with multiple minutes to spare. Then along came the second one, and there we go, that is the weapon that will carry us all the way up to the cultist. Oh, and did I ever tell you, I have channel memberships available now? For the low price of £2 a month, you will obtain custom emojis and a badge next to your name to show your superiority compared to other viewers of my channel. And that isn't all, you'll also gain access to a members only channel in my Discord, including members only video updates. And you'll even be shouted out at the end of my videos, so become a Shig today. Okay, I'm done wasting your time, I'll get back to the video. Now I could upgrade to the Asgard's Valor or the Angel Treads at this point, but I just wanted to take down some bosses, you know? So I got straight to bossing these bosses, the first of which being Anahita and Leviathan. Seeing as they are aquatic creatures, we're the only ones getting nerfed here. We're basically fighting them in their own domain. Although I've got to say, the Eternal Blizzard was completely shredding a Leviathan. I did swap to the Snowman Cannon when Anahita spawned as she is a smaller target, but I completely forgot to reforge it. Yeah, I was wondering why it was doing no damage. Anyways, now that both of them are here, they were completely tag teaming me. I was getting bullied by them. Anahita was completely trivial on her own, but when the Leviathan dashed at me, with my reduced agility and lack of Asgard's Valor, it was hard to dodge. Yeah, I really do regret not upgrading my dash here. Anyways, now with Leviathan out of the picture, the fight was basically trivial. I'd take a couple stupid hits from Anahita, nearly die at the end, but we took her out. No problem. As per usual, we don't get a ranged weapon, although I don't remember it being too incredible either. But more importantly, we can access the upgraded Abyss. I'm not even sure why Leviathan upgrades the Abyss after you kill them. In fact, no, it used to be Calclone that would upgrade the Abyss, but that makes even less sense. I had my eyes set on the Megalodon, an ever so awesome upgrade to the ever so awesome Mega Shark, requiring only some depth cells, voidstone, and the ultrafish. I also mined some planty mush so we can make some life fruits. One misclick later, I recall back home, but it turns out Jared follows you. I'm not going down without a fight though. I craft the Megalodon and immediately get to testing it. Slight issue though, the water jets have no range, so an entire half of this weapon's attacks are completely nullified. I guess that leaves us with no other choice than to face Aureus. And oh, he is a floaty boy. This caught me off guard, I didn't think he'd be floating that much. His projectiles, on the contrary, are completely unaffected, so I had to lock back in. And soon enough, I found a rhythm with his stomping attack. For the time being, I went with the Snowman Cannon. It wasn't doing as much damage as I'd expected, but it was aggressively homing into him, which is what you're looking for if you're trying to learn a boss's attacks, you know? For the most part, this fight was an absolute cruel. It was taking us forever to bite some sizable chunks off of his health, but I was charging adrenaline quite frequently. I'm not sure entirely what the breakpoints for the different phases are, but I know we was close to his final one. The phase where he starts stomping a billion times, which combined with all the other projectile spam and his floatiness really caught me off guard, and sadly I ended up being finished off by a debuff. Let's try again. This time I used the Eternal Blizzard as I saw it was dealing more damage. And Aureus is a big boy, it's not like we need the homing. Maybe we need the homing. What we definitely needed though was more attempts. It's the floatiness of the water that's throwing me off the most, and my less than optimal dash. But at the end of the day, why would you even need better gear? Just fill in that hole with skill. It's the more difficult path, but it will increase your skill exponentially. And it's just fun to play like this. Terraria at its core is a sandbox game, not necessarily a 2D boss rushing bullet hell, but it can be that way if you want it to be. And that's Astrum Aureus. Not too hard, but not completely free either. We take the adrenaline upgrade and move on with our lives. There was nothing in particular I really wanted to craft at this point, so I decided we will move straight on to Golem. Upon arrival, I got my ass folded into some origami and handed directly to me. You ever just wonder what people would do if you could respawn in real life? Okay, we're not going to go down that existential rabbit hole, let's just fight the boss. As always, Golem is nothing too special, although his fireballs are incredibly slow. The snowman cannon made incredibly short work of the hands, and with some adrenaline, the Eternal Blizzard was completely annihilating the head. For once, the water mobility was actually really helping out here. Yeah, flight time? That's a thing of the past. Things were way too good to be true. We were completely low diffing this guy. It had to be some kind of divine intervention that would stop us. Oh wait, this is new. Is this a new death mode attack? Does Golem just freeze time? Looks like we've been hit. The enemy ascended beyond your control. Or was that all yours? I'm dead. Okay, let's try again. It appears my pylons aren't working. On top of freezing time to kill me, Golem also destroyed all of my housing. Well, at least the torches inside of them. Luckily though, I remember this absolute Giga Chad's comment, so I made some iCore torches and fixed up my housing. A few minutes later, and our pylons are back up and running. Okay, Golem, I want a fair, clean fight, no time manipulation. Well, I wouldn't say this is a fair fight exactly, but whatever. Now we got Professor Headless Chicken over here in the final phase shooting exploding bolts at me, but honestly, these are nothing. Golem fires off a few more volleys of lasers at me, but it was to no avail. We take him down. The defeat of Golem marks a milestone in our progression. We have the option to move directly to the Celestial Pillars if we take on the Cultist, or we could fight a few other bosses and maybe enhance our gear even further. But if one thing's a given, that would be mining scoria ore. I pull up to the abyss and ore excavate the living daylights out of this ore. Just straight vein mining it. I return back to my humble base and would you look at that, Ickle? I'm upgrading my health. Bet you didn't think I'd do that. Okay, anyways, I crafted all these scoria ore into bars and made the Hellstorm. A very solid and effective gun at this point. Then I made the full set of hydrothermic armor. A pretty substantial upgrade to Chlorify at this point. Now it was time to farm some plague enemies in the jungle. Although I noticed a distinct lack of them spawning. I even tried looking underground, but after a few minutes, not a single one. So what I'm gathering from this is that the enemies just straight up don't spawn underwater. If there are any ways to get Plague Soul canisters before you take on the Plaguebringer, do let me know in the comments, that would actually be pretty interesting. But yeah, this does kinda suck though, I wanted to see what Plaguebringer was like. I guess the next best option we have is to fight the Ravager. Just like every other gravity affected boss, he is considerably slowed down. Although there are some of his projectiles that are entirely unaffected. The contrast between the two different speeds catching me off guard. This slimy goofy rocket has just crashed into me for no reason. It's okay. Let's try again. If you believe in yourself, and Box believes in you too, anything is possible. With the power of friendship and adrenaline, we completely shig him into his second phase, where the fight goes from spammy awkward bullet hell to run left and right simulator, and occasionally dash 2 I suppose. I found the long range and consistency of the Hellstorm to be absolutely perfect on this boss. Seriously, it's just such a good weapon. Anyways, we take him down, no sweat. I take the rage upgrade and throw the geode at the nearest brick wall. Sadly, I didn't get the range drop from Ravager, but the Realm Ravager, what it's called, isn't too good anyways. Since we didn't really have a way to fight Plaguebringer, I bought some truffle worms and we challenged the Duke instead. which we was able to spawn in with an air pocket thanks to the ever so trusty super absorbent sponge. Time to challenge the literal Duke of the Seas in his own domain. Not particularly the best idea. But hey, what could go wrong? The Hellstorm was doing some pretty immaculate damage to him. This thing even works just fine on the bubbles too. Second phase now. And if you have a keen eye, you may have noticed I still haven't upgraded my dash. What could possibly go wrong? Well, nothing as far as I can see. The timing's a bit awkward, but we can still ram dash through him. Aside from the couple of stupid hits we were taking, we were on track to completely gobble this guy up. And then, shark happened. Who in their right minds thought that was a good idea? Yeah, okay, we're making the Asgard's Valor. While I get the materials for that, let me educate you on how these water accessories actually work. Now, for the time being, I've just been slapping them all on aimlessly, expecting them to work perfectly. Which I'll admit, the loadout I've got going right now is actually pretty good in hindsight. Although, these accessories don't necessarily stack with each other in the way you'd think. I'll show you what I mean. This is us with no accessories or armor, just a flipper potion. Not agile in the slightest. Now we put on the Abyssal Diving Suit. You can see we're more agile now, we accelerate faster and we even fall faster. Now for the Aquatic Heart, which states improves our underwater mobility, but the only reason we are gaining extra speed is because of the max movement speed and acceleration bar. On top of that, we can put on the Deep Diver, which supposedly increases water mobility, but yeah, it does nothing, it just doesn't stack. Okay, anyways, back to what we was doing. I bought some accessories from a totally not modded NPC. I mean, you wouldn't really want to watch me farming them anyways. And with those, I can make pretty much every ingredient for the Ankh Charm. Then the Ankh Shield, and ultimately the Asgard's Valor. This time, I wanted to do something new though. The Celestial Shell's water buff actually works separately from any other items, turning the Terrarian into a merman or maid or folk, as Terraria calls it, which gives us actual infinite flight instead of just infinite double jumps. We do ascend quite slowly, but believe me, it's a lot more precise than without it. Now with our ultimate loadout, we can finally die to Duke Fishron. Nah, I was just acting, there's no way we're that bad at the game. Once you get to phase 3, the fight is just an absolute breeze. Okay, maybe this just wasn't our day. With no other options here, I guess it was time for us to draw the curtains on hard mode. And in doing so, we challenged the Lunatic Cultist. Okay, he can't be that hard, can he? So far, things were looking smooth though. His attacks weren't affected by the water, but we was dodging through them perfectly. And the Hellstorm, which is pretty subpar for this tier, is still putting up a very good fight. As the fight progresses, the attacks do get faster and more chaotic, so I really do have to be on my toes. Especially these ancient lights he throws out. And his fireballs too. Yeah, good luck doing this in Infernum. We're getting closer and closer to taking him out. I made a pretty bad mistake here. I could have used the Rod of Discord, but I forgot. This attack though, where he shoots the Shadow Flame balls and then the Ancient Lights directly after, normally with some good fall speed you can evade both of them. But we fall kinda slowly in the water. Luckily for us though, the fin wings make us fall faster. So I replaced the Celestial Shell with them, sacrificing agility and precision for a higher top speed. I get the Ancient Light attack again, I get caught in a pretty awkward place, and the debuff finishes me off. There is one other concern I had with this boss, which would be the severe lack of visibility, so I led him on over to the Sulphurous Sea. Now that I think about it, this makes a very significant difference and allows me to read the attacks much more clearly. Oddly specific comparison here, but it's kind of like when you're making music with ear fatigue versus when you're doing it fresh in the morning. You'll be making overall better choices when your ears are fresh, and you'll be able to pick out things you couldn't previously see. Like, for example, a bad EQ balance or a resonance in a certain instrument. Okay, I'll stop being a music nerd, let's get back into the fight. We were drawing closer and closer to clutching the fight when he's on like 10,000 health. Well, I have the most optimized loadout, there really is nothing I can do here except keep trying. I'd imagine you're likely all internally screaming because I haven't upgraded my life yet. But at the end of the day, who even needs to spend literally 2 minutes getting some life fruits and a couple materials when you can just do another attempt on the boss? This time around, I went for the Eternal Blizzard as a weapon choice, as fun fact, homing weapons are nerfed on the cultist. Which means I did have to focus on aiming, and stay slightly closer to the boss, but at the end of the day, it's a trade-off I was willing to make. As in this scenario, the Eternal Blizzard was completely crushing this boss. And I was fully 100% one for all full cowling locked in on this boss. There we go. With the cultist wiped out and the ancient manipulator obtained, we have set in motion the final chapter of this video. If any of you have ever seen my double bosses playthrough, or just know about me in general, you'll know exactly why I'm taking on the Nebula Pillar first. I'll give you a couple moments to think about your answer, because why would I be doing the Nebula Pillar? I'm a ranger. What benefit could there possibly be? Well, my friend, I will show you. If you haven't already figured it out, I'll show you the answer. Let's introduce the Scorpio, a direct upgrade to the Snowman Cannon, which deals significantly more damage, homes in on enemies aggressively, and you haven't seen this yet, the right-click attack. Essentially, you charge up the right-click attack by performing 3 bursts of rockets. Once it's charged, you can release the nuke, dealing multiple thousands of damage if you can land a hit. This is honestly one of my favourite weapons in the entire game, as it takes such a normally brain-dead weapon but gives it some nuance and some strategy. Also, why is this solar pillar inside a hive? Not really gonna question it, but okay. Either way, that's the second pillar done. The Stardust pillar was nothing special, it was pretty mindless. I would just float around, fire this weapon, and eventually we took down the shield. Now for the fourth and final pillar, the Vortex pillar. I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot to fight Astrum Deus. I wouldn't imagine him being too much harder underwater, but at the end of the day, there isn't too many upgrades you can get from him. Not necessarily for Ranger at least. Anyways, we nuke the Vortex pillar into oblivion, and prepare for our final challenge against the Tentacle Lord himself. We're fully equipped in terms of armor and accessories, we have the best weapon we can possibly get at this point, so the only thing left for us to do is take on the Moon Lord. The beginning of the fight plays out very similar to how it normally would do, except I'm considerably slower. Luckily for us though, our infinite flight allows us to easily dodge his death beam. The beams he shoots from his eyes do actually seem to be slowed down by the water, although that could just be me tripping. So far, this fight was seeming too good to be true. How could I be completely demolishing him? Our damage wasn't incredible due to our lack of DPS accessories, but we were still getting by perfectly fine. I even saved up some adrenaline, which I used to completely melt through his health bar. Okay, here's where things get real now the cores finally open itself up. All 3 tries of Cthulhu are out to get us now. But remember, the boss can't kill you if you kill it first. All we had to do was drop its health to 0 before it drops our health to 0. Which is easier said than done, but we have the power of friendship on our side. Seriously, if Box believes in you, anything is possible. The Moon Lord spams attacks at me like there's no tomorrow, but I reciprocate. I'll fire absolutely everything I have at this boss. And once again, the Scorpio remains undefeated. Why is his eye still there? But bugs aside, what matters is that we won. Now that we're officially in post-Moonlord progression, this is where things really get interesting. But I'm gonna have to pull a cliffhanger on you guys, I'm sorry. Next week, we will open the Moonlord's treasure bag and begin the final arc of this journey. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. And an even bigger thank you to our channel members, Bad Ash and McMantis. The mods I use are in the description, the music I've used is in the description, my Discord link is in the description, all that stuff. Have a great day, and don't forget to make a cup of tea. See ya.